This update might end up being the single most important update of 2020. Not only does it bring new commanders, but it profoundly changes the nature of how matchmaking for Kingdom versus Kingdom and also Imperium kingdoms is going to work. Oh my gosh, stick around for a full breakdown and everything you need to know about this unbelievable patch coming literally in less than a week. What is going on? Governor's Chisgule here, and I cannot believe how massive this upcoming patch is. There is a ton to cover here, so we're going to move really quickly through each of these things, and the implications are huge. If you like Rise of Kingdoms news and guides, consider subscribing for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos and the latest news as soon as it hits. I say this in every video where there's news. I'm a sponsored content creator, but I find out the same time you do when things are happening in the game. There is going to be a Dynasty Warriors 9 crossover event in which the two commanders that we revealed were coming to Rise of Kingdoms are in fact going to be hitting the game. One of them is going to be legendary and the other is going to be epic. So for those of you looking for a new epic commander, hey, here it comes. And this limited time event, it's a Dynasty Warriors 9 crossover, is happening really soon for Lu Bu and diaochan, who we predicted that's who it was going to be. Now, the Dance of Friendship, complete quest to earn great rewards, including getting the epic commander sculptures of diaochan. So she's an epic. I don't know what her trees are going to be, but you get her for free. I don't think she's going to be a gathering commander. I think she's going to be a combat-oriented commander. But if she is a gathering commander, and only one skill is for gathering, and all the rest of them are for combat, then she could be still really legit for other things, just like Joan of Arc. Now, they're adding an intriguing dancer and powerful demon god bundle available for a limited time to get these new commanders. That's really interesting. I don't know if that means that the sculptures for these new commanders will only come from those bundles, or if you can buy them to get ahead. And if you can buy them, is it going to be like the sort of deal you get from VIP? Or is it going to be really, really expensive, more like the Living Legends bundle, where it's like a very paltry number of sculptures for the amount of money you're spending? I would anticipate it's probably going to be somewhere in between, and my hope is that you can use your universal sculptures to finish these commanders off, and just maybe you unlock them with a small amount of spend. We'll see how that ultimately unfolds. Of course, we buy every bundle that comes into the game, so we'll be happy to share what that looks like as soon as they land. Also, we've got a live stream later today where we'll be speculating more about these commanders, their abilities, because they're not in the mightiest governor cycle, which means they're not bound to what we might normally expect to see in the cycle of like leadership, archer, and infantry and cavalry commanders. So what kind of commanders are they going to be? From the lore that I've read so far of Lu Bu and diaochan, they're lovers, and they don't have exactly an easy experience being together. So my impression is that perhaps these commanders will be even more powerful when they're together. That would be a sort of interesting and next level play that the developers could make. But at the same time, I hope that they don't have to be paired up together, because then, like, you know, you could have more pairs and more interesting combinations. So we'll see what they do with that. Although getting commanders from bundles was something I did not expect. I did expect we would see some Lost Kingdom changes. First of all, some of the Lost Kingdom rewards have been adjusted in order to help governors craft better equipment. Well, if you're subscribed to the channel, you know we put out a video recently that covered the developer feedback about what would be coming into the game. They said they were going to remove a bunch of speed-up items in favor of putting in more material crates. We'll see exactly how that works out, but I'll say that materials are really absolutely crucial for powering up your commanders in the game. Having more access to materials is generally a good thing. There's lots of ways to get speed ups, and the ways to get materials is actually fairly limited. Now, we discovered that in some older kingdoms, power increases comes primarily from training troops. Yes, obviously, a lot of the players that are active hit T5, and then, you know, in a super old kingdom, it's all troop power at that point. But the growth potential for power for each troop is actually quite hindered by troop capacity limits. Yes, that is true. You can only bring 5 marches. For a long time, I've said, like, well, Baba's super powerful at 1 billion power, but like the dude can only bring 5 marches just like the rest of us. However, we've optimized the Lost Kingdom matchmaking. Governors now with power higher than 150 million will be calculated as 150 million for matchmaking purposes. This is wild. Basically, up until this point, it was kind of a downside to be a mega power player because you actually had a hard time contributing in a manner that was commensurate with the amount that you made matchmaking harder. In other words, most high power players made KVK matchmaking really hard and didn't contribute nearly as much as they cost their kingdom. But that's changing, it looks like. A 150 million power cap. So you will count as 150 million even if you're a billion. I guess as long as you can only use 5 marches and they don't change the way the rest of it works, that seems reasonable for not hindering the growth of players. That would seem reasonable to me. They've added a new bundle, Bumper Harvest, for the Lost Kingdom. It's a super value resource bundle. We'll see how often that refreshes. I mean, I get why they're doing it. There are people that will buy resources. I don't find myself in that camp. That feels extremely expensive to me. But we'll see what that bundle looks like when it lands. Now, the Lost Kingdom Heroic Anthem, KVK, this is the new format of KVK, has been optimized, they're saying. And the first optimization is the look and feel of the Crystal Mine and Research Center. Okay, personally, I don't particularly care what the Research Center and the Bastion looks like, but okay. Optimize the names of some of the Crystal Research Center technologies to make them easier to understand is nice. Optimize the Coalition honor points and Camp honor point icons. Okay, whatever, aesthetically pleasing. The name Crusader Fortress has been changed in some languages to be consistent. Optimize the logic of support skills. They will now work regardless of which commander or troop setup has them equipped, but some commanders still cannot equip their own skills. It sounds like there were some bugs with the support skills not working the way that you would have expected based on who you put them on, and now they'll work as expected. That sounds fine. So actually all really, really minor changes to the Lost Kingdom. I'm actually surprised there's not something more heavily balance-oriented that is in here, but let's continue to see if there's anything else that addresses balance. Golden Kingdom event optimizations. We discovered the Golden Kingdom is too hard for some governors. This also was in the October developer feedback that we revealed on the channel. So if you're subscribed, you know this kind of stuff is coming. Consider subscribing for the latest news as soon as it happens. So they did in fact adjust the difficulty to be more reasonable. My assertion was that they just should have made equipment equally good. In other words, there's equipment that's like, oh, skip the front line, attack the back line. It's like, why is that? Why are there these relics? I guess relic is what I mean. Why are some of these things, blessing is what I mean. Why are blessings in here that don't do anything? Or you want to balance it? Just make it so the blessings all don't suck so that, you know, people can have some good items, and a small number of items were just insanely good, right? The healing items were just crazy, out of control good. That's still probably the case, but let's see what those balance changes are here. The difficulty's been made more reasonable. Scales with the length of a kingdom's history. Actually, that sounds reasonable to me. Scaling with kingdom age makes sense because that roughly translates to commander power, and commander power is crucial for that event. Adjusted the healing huts. Now the healer's hut will restore a set amount for all troops. I think that's probably a net positive thing. You probably get more healing overall, but I wonder if that actually makes the event harder because the most efficient tactic is to kind of have a tank march, and that one tank march gets really low and everything else stays really high. So actually that might make things harder. Adjusted the price of some relics to be more reasonable. That will make things easier. Being able to get more relics, especially healing relics, is going to make the event a good bit easier. Optimized the screen for reinforcement camps. While summoning troops, you can now tap on the portrait to see a breakdown of its unit types. I think that's nice. Overall, I think that I like a hard event to be in the game, but I don't want it to be hard for the reasons that it historically has been, which is like more luck than skill. So we'll see if this becomes slightly more skill dependent than luck dependent with these changes. I still feel like if the fervent tactics item is what it is, that kind of is going to be the best item to obtain. Now they fixed 2 commanders for whom their skills were not listed correctly, and all they did was change the text. So again, if you are subscribed to the channel, these are things you knew about already. Varangian Guard was reducing defense faster than the skill indicated, and it would basically scale up with each level, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, and it was actually doing 5%. My obvious preference, of course, would have been that we listed the skill how it worked in the first place, but we figured it out and have that in video. So they fixed an error in the description of Zenobia's expertise skill, and this is also something we had uncovered, which is that in addition to giving 50% health and doing the heal, it also gives 30% damage boost for 2 seconds. Dang. So Zenobia is really good. I have mixed feelings about the language on a commander and a mightiest governor being off, because that feels like it could have influenced who would have gone for this commander. But with that said, we did post in a video that this was happening. Preference would be that, look, getting the skills right in game is really important. And for a long time, getting the skill descriptions right has been a thing we've been talking about. I think it would be really solid to have a small group of players get their hands on these commanders, maybe under NDA, so they can't actually talk about what they've seen, and test this stuff a little more, because we usually find it within 30 minutes of our hands on the commander that hey, it's working differently than described. This, however, I cannot believe. This is a massive Artemisia buff. The active skill for Artemisia dealt damage factor to herself. So previously, she had more damage than a lot of other commanders in their active skill because she was also doing damage to herself, which, as it turns out, is really bad. But before this fix, you could severely wound your own units, and after the fix, you will only be able to slightly wound them. I also think that means that when you're defending a flag, you won't kill your own units, because in a flag, some percentage of your severe wounds are in fact dead troops. So Artemisia is about to get a massive buff. If I'm understanding this correctly, this is a massive, massive, massive rebalancing of Artemisia in a way that may profoundly change whether or not she is a better garrison commander than some other commander, because now, instead of having all these troops end up hitting a hospital or dying, you don't have them dying at all. Yeah, that seems like a massive change to me, and if you're into archers, that's all upside right there. We also see some immigration changes here, which is a big deal. In order to prevent serious power imbalances during the early stages of a kingdom's existence, we made the following adjustments. Governors can now see more concise descriptions of the kingdom's rules and statuses. Okay. When kingdoms on a single continent are between 10 days of age and 120 days of age, the continent will have 2 rising kingdoms. Counting only the top 300 governors in each kingdom's power rankings, the 2 kingdoms with the highest total power will be the rising kingdoms. So this is like imperium for baby kingdoms. So they're basically saying, hey, within each continent, 2 of the kingdoms are going to be a little bit immigration limited. That way, they don't become crazy powerhouses and offset the balance of the early game, it looks like. Governors with 10 million power or more will not be able to immigrate to rising kingdoms, but rising kingdom status will change in real time with shifts in total power. If a kingdom is both a rising kingdom and an imperium kingdom, the rising kingdom, immigration rules shall prevail. To me, this seems reasonable. They're just preventing any one kingdom really early on from becoming an unconquerable superpower. I think that's fine. And honestly, that may not even stop that from happening. That may not even be enough to stop that from happening. Optimize the logic for immigration on the same continent. Governors are now allowed to immigrate to an older kingdom on the same continent, even if the target kingdom is not developed. Okay, so in super young kingdoms, crazy young kingdoms, you could go from a slightly younger kingdom by days to a slightly older one. I mean, basically, they're letting you move around a little bit in your continent without being able to go to a younger kingdom in your continent, which would give you a power advantage relative to everybody else, potentially. I think that's all fine and interesting. Up next, optimized rallies. Governors can now choose to leave rallies at any time. Boom, mind blown. Remember when I said it doesn't matter that they have changed the balance of how imperium calculations are done and how matchmaking is done for mega players, as long as they haven't changed how mega players interact with everybody else? Well, mega players are about to be super valuable in kingdoms. Optimized rallies. Governors can now leave rallies at any time, which means you could go rejoin the rally with multiple troops. That's insane. If you're a high-power player looking to migrate, Kingdom 75 might just be for you. Talk to Ruse and Cortex. But joking aside, I think this is going to give high power players a lot more opportunity to send their troops in a manner that's super helpful to the kingdom. And if you're not super high powerful player, like, please be wise with your troops. If you join a rally multiple times, you're going to have an astonishing number of dead troops, and you will not be able to fight in the field or rally for much longer if you do that for too long. So be smart on how you deploy your troops to rallies. Added a counter showing how many alliance members are online. Cool. Added 4 limited edition 7-day supplies for food, wood, stone, and gold. Gold could be really interesting. These will be on rotation in your kingdom for a limited time. Purchase limit is 2 per resource type. Okay, resource bundles. Osiris League finals are starting. The finals will be a best of 3 contest. This is really interesting. Bets will open at corresponding times. Don't miss out. So, you know, look, you could show up with a tactic that the other team didn't know how to handle, and you'd win Osiris League. And I think best out of 3 is a much, much better way to do this. I like this because it gives teams a chance to adapt. So now we'll really see which team is the best, and it's hard to dispute that a best out of 3 contest is not really the better team. So I think that's a great update. And by the way, we cover Ark of Osiris League on our channel. You're not going to want to miss that. I mean, saying like subscribe. Consider subscribing if you haven't to see that sort of stuff. Reduce the level requirement for Forest Guardian. Okay, that is fine. Added 4 new accessories. Karok's War Drums, Seth's Call, Wind Scars, and Ancient Stratagems. Wow. Okay, so 4 new accessories. The thing that I hope for these accessories is that they are advanced tier and blue tier and epic tier, right? Like, I hope they're adding lower tier accessories that are easy for players to obtain. Because, like, right now, accessories are like a super elite, hard to get sort of a thing. And I'd like if more players had access to those accessories. It narrows the gap between free to play and pay to win, which I think is generally a good thing. So we'll see what those end up looking like. I wonder if the Karok's War Drums comes from the Karok ceremony. We'll see what those are and where they come from as soon as this patch lands. Reduce the amount of gold required to forge normal and advanced equipment. This is designed for young kingdoms that people have been saying they struggle with gold there, and it makes sense that that would be the case. They've got some huge conflicting interests working on gold to power up their commanders versus other things to power up their city. Added an alliance application sorting feature. Okay, that's fine. Optimize the expedition system. Now when you exit an expedition, the troop arrangement will be saved. That's really nice. It is sort of a pain in the butt how you go into the expedition and every single time you have to reset what your commanders were going to be. After entering the battlefield in Cerulli Crisis, you'll be able to change roles before the battle starts. We've optimized the enmity, that's the threat, display list. Okay. I think that people aren't even going to look at the threat list. The kinds of folks that are stealing threat are just have no clue what's happening. But okay, they changed the way that looks. Adjusted the price of Kingdom newspapers to 1,000 gold. Awesome. I don't buy the newspaper because it feels like a really silly use of gems. It also feels like a silly use of gold, but for a price of 1,000 gold, okay, you have my attention. Resolve some screen lag issues. Oh. Including those caused by having large numbers of troops on the screen at the same time. This might actually be the biggest update. Do they think they've fixed lag? Because that's freaking huge. Wow. All in all, I think this update is going to be game-changing for Rise of Kingdoms. New commanders, new calculations for how both Imperium works, which means the foundation of how kingdom building is done is about to change, as well as KVK matchmaking. So this is like just astonishingly huge implications for a lot of kingdoms here, as well as the ability to join rallies repeatedly. Wow. This update is huge. We're going to talk about this more in a live stream we're doing later today. So consider subscribing or joining my Discord server, discord.gg/Chisgule, where the conversation literally never stops 24/7 about Rise of Kingdoms. Do me a favor if you enjoyed this video and throw a like on it. It supports the channel, and it's 100% free to you to throw a like onto videos. If you want to see our original speculations for Lu Bu and diaochan, I'll have a card on this video. You hit the info button at the top and you can go get a look at that. I think those commanders are going to be really exciting. And heck, if you want to see when we indicated that Zenobia was much more powerful than she was showing in her skills, I'll have a card up in the top for that as well, which, you know, I think it's pretty insightful to know how some of these commanders work. Zenobia is the top tier garrison at this time. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.